morning, everybody. Welcome to Mortal Gaming. This is me again, Marvin, and we're now here for another video for Ragnarok Origin. And this time we're going to be talking about Sigils and their Imprint. So Sigils right now has been the most game-changing update that we have had ever since. So it's going to be, important for us to understand their effects and which Sigils or which imprints are best for your job classes. All right, so if we're going to the gallery right now, you would see a lot of imprints that would be available to your job, and technically there will be more imprints to come. They're just not yet releasing them, but we have all of this right now. I'm going to discuss some of it one by one at the first part of the video, and then we'll be discussing for each jobs. Okay, so first let's go to the active imprint, because the active imprint is the one that has the 3-minute cooldown and can make or break your party success. Okay, so for the active imprints, we have different types in terms of the imprint tier. We have different types of tier. We have the blue tier, we have the purple tier, gold tier, and red tier. So of course, as everything in the game, the higher tier, the rarer it becomes, and sometimes the more expensive it gets. Okay, so in terms of the first one, the overall active imprint that anyone can use, the ancient power, we have the frozen world that is only obtainable from the Verucci Precious. So we have the holy light descending, and we have the sword ultimate, both obtainable from auction or Jupiter's ruins. The ancient power, it is gifted to the top ranks for the Jupiter's ruins. And for the yellow tier or gold tier, we only have the ancient power, the photon burst, and the descending swords, except for the frozen world. The frozen world only is available on the red tier. For the blue tier, we only have the ancient power. So the build imprints, this is what I'm talking about, guys. We will be having more build imprints in the future, so don't be disheartened like me when you have your current build imprint, not your current build. So it's for less used builds right now, so that more people will be convinced, or more people will jump to switching builds at the moment. For the passive imprints, this is the one that could really affect the gameplay of your party, particularly different types of guild activities and MVPs. We have 4 types of yellow tiers here, who are only available at yellow tiers and only attainable from the Jupiter's ruins and from the packs. So we have here Soul Reaper, Raging Bloodlust, Energy Drain, and Berserk. So Endless Nightmare has a purple tier, which is this one, Gate of Suffering, and the blue one, which is this, Painful Drowning. Okay, so for floating protection, we have Surging Protection, and we have Flowing Shield. For the Choice of Fate, we have the purple here as Choice Maze, and the Risky Roulette, I think, yeah, the Risky Roulette on blue. For the Chosen One, we have the purple here at God of Gamblers, and Lucky Roll on blue. Then Courage Blessing only on yellow and on purple, which is the Brave Heart. For the Immortal Body, we only have purple here and blue one, which is the Silver Soul. Okay, for the another one only for purple is the Swift Breakout, and the blue one is Silent Escape. Also on purple is the Megaton Bash, and on blue one it's Fierce Bash. And we have Deadlock Aurora for purple, okay, and blue is the Unexpected Rescue. Then we have the Weakness Gaze on the special for the purple as of the moment. So let's talk about High Wizards. High Wizards and Magnus Priests. Okay, so for the active imprints, I suggest that you go for all around, you go for Soul Ultimate, whether you go for MVPs, PvE, or even in dungeons and even on PvP, guild versus guild activities. It will be applicable for everything. Sword Ultimate, or the Descending Swords, or even the Divine Sword. For PvE, Ancient Power can be used because it would be, helping your party members. For PvP, the Radiant Shield or the Holy Light Descending is going to be the best one for PvP. Now, for the passive imprints, we have the Soul Reaper as your main priority because this one is going to be, increasing your DPS, particularly on PvE, but also will be very helpful on PvP. So Soul Reaper is a very good. Energy Drain, this one is also good in increasing your DPS and your damage. You could also go for Berserk. The next would be Chosen One. The Chosen One has a lot of increase or a lot of benefits for your gameplay. So this is going to be very good. And Floating Protection, although it's not going to be, high of a recommendation, it's still very good. Additional DPS, water magic damage, particularly on PvP sometimes, wherein more people are going to be wearing Pasana. So it's going to be, additional damage to those who are wearing Pasana, and that shield can be helpful at times. Then last would be Immortal Body. So Immortal Body can be very good for both grinding MVPs and even PvP. Very good for your gameplay. Now, if you're gonna focus on PvE alone, then Choice of Fate or Choice Maze, where is that, is going to be your thing. Next would be God of Gamblers because, the Chosen One could only be used most of the times on PvE. But on PvP, when you use God of Gamblers, the reduction when you get unlucky is going to be, costing you your life. So it's not going to be that much recommended. But in PvE, God of Gamblers is okay. Megaton Bash for those times wherein you want to grind or do MR. That's very good. Now for PvP, Endless Nightmare is going to be one of the things that you would want for your character, since this one is going to be taking effect as compared with the Gate of Suffering. The Gate of Suffering deals damage to the enemy when you have achieved 10 hits or 10 damage to that enemy. So it's not going to be that much of a difference in terms of PvP. But when you equip Endless Nightmare, it's going to be, damaging the enemy when you damage it the first time, because after dealing damage to the target, no number of damage required, you're just gonna attach Endless Nightmare to that enemy, and that deducts physical attack and magic attack, both combined to the enemy. But take note, the enemy must be moving in order for you to do damage to that enemy. And so that's going to be perfect on PvP because most of the people just don't stay in one place on PvP. They like to move around. So that's going to be for your benefit. So Endless Nightmare is going to be the best one for PvP. But if you're gonna be asking me where do you get Endless Nightmare, you can obtain it right now at the pass or the battle pass. So Ace Agent battle pass, or you can obtain it randomly on your Juperos Ruin runs. Okay, so next would be Deadlock Aurora, because most likely would be killed most of the times. So this is a lifesaver for you. Next would be Courage Blessing. Courage Blessing makes you a little bit more tanky so that you could, dish out more damage and die less. Okay, so next would be the combination of Swift Breakout plus Immortal Body. Okay, so Swift Breakout, if you could see, would be increasing your damage reduction for 10 seconds if you continue to move, and at the same time, if you get damaged, your movement speed would be increased and you would heal when you use Immortal Body. So the combination of Swift Breakout and Immortal Body is going to be very awesome for your PvP gameplay. Okay, now let's move to the High Priests. For the full support High Priest, of course, you have to be tankier, and the Sigils Imprint will be the reason why you're gonna be so much tankier than you are before. First, of course, for the active imprints, Radiant Shield or the Holy Light Descending. Where's the Radiant Shield or Photon Burst? Yeah, Radiant Guardian. So I call it Radiant Shield because of this, the Radiant, then it says Radiant and then Shield. Okay, so the Radiant Shield is the one thing that you would want for most of your gameplay, dungeons, PvP, guild versus guild activities. This is going to be your thing. If you want to get another one on MVPs, go for the Ancient Power for MVP runs. Next would be passive imprints. For the passive imprints, we are now going to be all around, so it's going to be easier for the full supports. The first one is the floating protection. Okay, so the floating protection uses your magic damage to, you know, get back to the enemy. Since shield gets broken by the enemy, it also slows the enemy, so it helps your party members to kill those targets that got slowed down. So floating protection is very good. The next one is the Courage Blessing. The Courage Blessing is really powerful because most of the times they would target priests at first. So next would be the Immortal Body and the Swift Breakout combination again. And last but not the least, the Chosen One, since the Chosen One also includes reduced damage taken, increased movement speed, and increased attributes, not only just damage dealt. Okay, now let's talk about the ADL snipers or the Agidex Lock snipers and the dual crit build Sin X or Assassin Cross. So first one is for the active imprints. Of course, it's your job to deal DPS. So the all-around active imprint for you is going to be the Sword Imprint. The next one would be Ancient Power if you want for PvE, but Sword is still better on PvE. The next, for PvP, Radiant Shield is still the best one. Now, let's go to the passive imprints. For the passive imprints, this is the time that you would want to get the Raging Bloodlust. The Raging Bloodlust increases your crit damage by 10%. That's huge. If you're gonna be comparing most of the imprints here, 10% increase in damage is the best here. So Raging Bloodlust is the first thing that you should aim. That could be obtained from packs and from the Juperos Ruins. Next would be Energy Drain and Berserk. The next one would be a purple imprint, which is the Weakness Gaze. This one increases your attack speed and increases your crit rate, and that's going to be very much helpful for your character. Now, next would be Chosen One. Of course, you could gain a ton of benefits from all of this. Anything that could get rolled here would be beneficial for your character. Next would be Immortal Body, both for MVP and for grinding. Okay, now let's go to the PvE or the MVP status. That would be Choice of Fate or the Choice Maze. Where's the Choice Maze? This one, because that would be making you dish more damage, because even though it's just 30% chance, it could this one would be 8% increase in damage is still a lot. Okay, now for PvP, Endless Nightmare is the best, and even Gate of Suffering is going to be one of your things. You could easily damage the enemy 10 times, so it's not going to be a problem. So Endless Nightmare or even Gate of Suffering is going to be very good for you. Now, Deadlock Aurora is also good for you to be able to withstand those one-hit damage dealers. Next would be the combination still of Swift Breakout and Immortal Body. And last but not the least is the Courage Blessing. So particularly in dual dagger assassins, you would be facing the enemies on a melee battle. So Courage Blessing is very, very important, okay? So now let's go to the Spear Lord Knights, the Master Smiths, Sharpshoot Sniper, and the Champions, okay? For their active imprints, of course, Sword Ultimate is the best one since they like dealing burst damage. So this is one big burst damage that they could, invest on. Next would be Ancient Power if you want to help your party members. Then Radiant Shield for PvP. Then next would be the passive. For the passive imprints, the first one is Energy Drain, because when you look at the Energy Drain, when you stack it 10 times, meaning you have stayed idle for 10 seconds, you could gain additional 10% increase in your damage. Then that's another 1% increase for every second. So that's going to be a big thing, particularly for champions. Then now next would be Chosen One. Actually, Chosen One is for everyone, right? So Chosen One, Choice of Faith, because as compared with the attack speed or with the crit builds, somewhat on average has less chance to damage you. So Choice of Faith is still best for you. Next would be Immortal Body for grinding and for MVP. Then the last would be Megaton Bash. So Megaton Bash is one of those purple imprints that you would want to get at first, because this, is really good for those who are dealing burst damage. Now, for PvP, of course, Endless Nightmare again, Courage Blessing, and Deadlock Aurora for you, and the combination of Swift Breakout and Immortal Body. Now, next, last but not the least, the tanks and the paladins. So for the active imprint, so still Sword Ultimate is very good for you. Ancient Power for PvE, and of course for PvP, this is non-negotiable. You would want the Radiant Circle or Radiant Shield for you, so that you could, you could protect even yourself when you are diving, okay? So next would be passive imprints. For the passive imprints, Energy Drain is also good, Berserk is also good, Chosen One is very good, of course. Deadlock Aurora is one of the must-haves, because, it's really irritating if you are trying to kill a tank and it's going to be killed and it gets healed instantly. So this is one of your must-haves, the Deadlock Aurora. And then next would be Safe Breakout and Immortal Body. Now, last would be the Weakness Gaze. The Weakness Gaze is going to be popular in the future, particularly for the Agi Tank Knights, because more people are switching to Agility Tank Knights, since, they could easily damage the enemy and at the same time proc a lot of things, particularly the Choice Maze in MVP, because they could get healed. So the Agi Knights are going to be a thing. So the Weakness Gaze is going to be one of your wanted purple imprints. Now, aside from that, let's talk about PvE in particular. Choice of Faith is really gonna help you in a lot of times, particularly on MVPs. Raging Bloodlust is also very good, because this also damages you, and if you're already on a crit build, particularly if you're a Sacrifice Paladin who is on a crit build, then Raging Bloodlust is going to be affecting your build by a lot. Next would be for the PvP, of course, Courage Blessing, okay? The Courage Blessing and the Swift Breakout, because we have already the Immortal Body and the Deadlock Aurora on all around passive imprints, okay? So I think that's it. Please take note that I still have a lot of testing to do. Some things, there are some things that I still don't know. So if you have any additional input, kindly comment it down below. We will all appreciate, as a community, the Immortal community, we will all appreciate your help. And I think that's it. I do hope that this guide has helped you. Thank you everybody for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. If you happen to like this video, please do leave a like, share this to your friends, and click that bell notification button to get notified every time I upload a new video, start a new stream, or a new content. That's it. See you again on the next video. Bye-bye. 'Cause now I found you.